Blake over here and living on a farm. He can eat all the healthy food he wants, probably.
You go out in the field.
You have chickens.
Yeah, just go get out in the fields.
I don't eat my chickens.
But you eat the eggs.
Yeah,
Which you've got what else going on out there? You've got honey.
Yeah, I got honey going on. We got the chicken.
We got a buffalo.
We got water buffalo, and we have bison.
Yeah.
Wow.
American bison. Fun fact, did you know that every state in the United States has wild bison or buffalo?
I just found that out about Florida
Did not know
recently.
that.
Yeah, they're actually a native species to Florida, which growing up here my whole life, I'd never heard about us having bison or buffalo or any of that kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
And I just recently remembered from a video that we have bears here. I've never seen a bear in my entire life in Florida.
I've seen a few in Ocala, and they actually have bear boxes, metal cape boxes at each campsite, and there's signs everywhere. We did see some bears.
Oh yeah, we have freaking bears. Welcome to the FloBro Show, Florida's premier podcast, presented by Florigins. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the FloBro Show. We're actually kicking off our first ever episode against all odds, against everybody trying to get here today. We all made it, and here we are recording. Got Blake over here, and got JD over here. So it's actually finally happening. How long have we been talking about this now?
It's probably been at least a few months.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say about 3 months. It seems like 3 months. It seems like 6, but I know it's only been like 3, maybe 2.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we were just chit-chatting away in our garage, and it just kind of clicked. Well, like, we've been talking for like 3 hours and didn't like just talking about life in Florida and growing up, and then we're like, I think we need to talk about this on camera and on microphones. And then Blake over here, natural-born filmmaker, he came into the picture because we needed a camera guy, and I've known Blake for a while, and we kind of reconnected on a job site, oddly enough, doing some film work, and I was out there working, and there he was. And then, next thing you know, here we all are here. So,
yep, it's wild how it all happened.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah,
it happened very organically.
Yeah. So my wife mentioned while we were out in the garage talking when you came over one day that, man, you guys should really do a podcast. You guys got a really good vibe. You mesh well together. So we're like, yeah, let's do that. So we started thinking about it, started getting a list of stuff that we need, and then just happened to meet Blake, and I just chucked that Hail Mary at him and see what's the worst they're going to say. No, he's too busy to do it. Fine. But he said yes, and here he is.
Yeah,
and
buddy.
we need somebody like him on here with youthful appearance and all the skills and the
we were doing that. We were doing a promotional video.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know a guy that does camera stuff. I just actually ran into him not too long ago, flying drones around, doing all that kind of stuff. And I was like, let's get him involved, get Blake involved. And then I was like, I don't know, man, Blake's busy, farm life and his videography work and all that. And I was kind of thinking like, he's too busy. I don't even want to mention the, podcast or camera. I felt like I was asking too much. And then he, like you said, he just threw that Hail Mary. And then Blake's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. And we're like, no way. We got like the tech guy that wants to be involved. And now he's actually one of the hosts. We're not hiding him. Well, we kind of hide him in a corner, but
it's the Kook's corner.
It's the Kook's
the old
corner.
Kook's corner here. So,
yep.
But it's just crazy because we all grew up here, and it's just sort of like we probably know a lot of the same people. I know JD and I know a lot of the same people. You and I definitely know a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how we just ended up coming together in this little studio here and making it happen. So
we're all from Florida.
Yeah, and it's funny. Last night, like I was getting all hyped up and getting ready to do this podcast, and getting the kids to bed, and my Chihuahua was up on the chair trying to eat my daughter's popcorn chicken. So I was walking by, and I just tried to shoo him away from the table or whatever, and and I turned and swat whatever, and then I missed, and then threw out my back because I got 3 herniated discs in my back. So all morning I've been shaking and just kind of trying to keep it together, but just in time to start recording, I started feeling pretty good, and here we are, and kicking it off, and so.
Yeah, you got to stretch. Make sure you stay stretching. I keep telling you that. We're getting 40 years old.
Yeah,
getting close to it. At least me and you are. And you got to get a stretching routine going on in the morning. I did manual labor for 22 years and decided to stop doing it because of my body and my back. And then I realized that once you start stretching every day, I stretch and work out every morning, and that kind of sets the standard for the rest of the day and makes me more flexible. So when I do something silly like that, I'm less likely to injure myself, because I have been in that situation, been down tying your shoes, sneezing, bending awkwardly in a certain direction, and then snap, and then you're down for several days.
Yeah, it's funny. I injured it at work, and it was pretty bad. It was like 12 weeks of physical therapy and all this stuff to get it back in place. But what I've noticed is every time that I do injure it, it is always something stupid like that, like getting up off a toilet or tying my shoe, or I've sneezed before and taken myself out of work for 3 days from just sneezing. So, and not everybody's flexible and 40 like Mr. freaking JD over here.
Well, the funny thing is me and Blake were just talking that the doctor that I go see, he's somehow related to, or his wife is, which is pretty funny. So I get shots, injections of cortisone in my back, and I got a few coming up here in a few weeks. I've had several done in my lower lumbar and in my SI joints, and it does help. I do it awake, which is not fun.
Yeah,
it is. It's not fun because one little slip here or there, it could put you in, and you're so close to your spine. But the doctor's very good, in combination with cutting out a lot of stuff from the diet that causes inflammation, doing yoga and stretching, and drinking a lot of water.
Yeah,
and pain management essentially is what it is. But once you get to a certain age, you realize you're pretty much just managing your symptoms because you're not going to be able to make them go away. If I could afford stem cell, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
But it's one day I'll get there. But that seems to be something that is more of a miracle that if you have the access to, which I do not, obviously. But one day I will. And that's about the only thing you can really do with modern medicine right now is stem cell, or it's just pretty much managing it.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, speaking of age, like it's a little off topic, but I went to the grocery store last night, and a couple days ago I saw this meme, or that wasn't even really a meme. Someone just posted the text on Facebook like, forget partying like it's 1999. At my age, I just want to grocery shop like it's 1999.
Yeah,
and
really.
So I threw a video together. I was leaving Publix last night, and I got the usual stuff, the popcorn chicken that my Chihuahua tried to eat. I bought that and some other things, and I took a lap around the produce section thinking I might want to try and eat something healthy, and I looked at the price of the produce and I was like, holy cow. And then that meme came back to my mind. So on the way out, I just got the camera going and I was like, hey man, I missed those prices. It's unbelievable.
It's sad that in this country it costs more to eat healthy than it does to eat like shit.
Yeah, I know. And I can eat McDonald's all week for what it would have cost to eat one meal of all the healthy stuff there. So it's just unbelievable. But got to do what you got to do, because I'm feeling the effects of getting older and living life like a teenager at 39 years old and all that kind of stuff. And Blake over here and living on a farm, he can eat all the healthy food he wants probably.
You just go out in the field.
You have chickens.
Yeah, just go out in the fields.
I don't eat my chickens,
but you eat the eggs.
Yeah,
which you gave me some eggs, and I ate the egg whites from them because my cholesterol. I tried to keep it down.
Stay away from
but they were very good. You could tell the color of the yolk was a heck of a lot different than even like when you get in the store.
Yeah,
and you've got what else going on out there? You've got honey.
We got honey. I got 3 hives with my cousin-in-law's fiance. We got 3 hives because I always wanted to do honey. So I was like, that'd be so cool. You literally just like have a beehive and you just go out and get honey. Like that's the coolest thing ever. So I got honey going on. We got the chickens. We got dogs. We got birds.
We got a buffalo.
We got water buffalo and we have bison.
Yeah,
wow.
American bison. Fun fact: did you know that every state in the United States has wild bison? Or buffalo.
I just found that out about Florida recently. Actually, in one of Matt the Welder's videos, he mentioned something about native. What is it? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know.
Natural habitat or
what is the word I'm looking for?
Like
native
ecosystem?
Species, I guess. I don't know, but they're actually a native species to Florida. Which growing up here my whole life, I'd never heard about us having bison or buffalo or any of that kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
And I just recently remembered from a video that we have bears here. I've never seen a bear in my entire life in Florida.
I've seen a few in Ocala.
Yeah.
I rode around the Ocala National Forest and some of those dirt roads, and I've seen some, and I've been camping at the forest up there.
Yeah.
And they actually have bear boxes, metal cape boxes at each campsite that you put your food in. They don't want you keeping your food. You either put it in the car or the bear box. It doesn't go in your tent. And there's signs everywhere. We did see some bears.
That's funny. I've never seen one, and somebody sent me a video of a bear just walking by this fence out front of somebody's house and to make a video out of. And I was like, I was trying to think of like what I was going to say in the video. And the only thing I could think of at the end of the video, I just say, "Oh yeah, we have bears in Florida."
Yeah,
and I was like, well, I guess, so a lot of people forget that we have that kind of stuff here, and so that was like my natural thought when I thought about like what can I say about a bear, and I'm like, oh yeah, we have freaking bears.
this is random, but have you guys ever thought about being in the woods or the jungle and seeing a tiger? Not in Florida. This isn't like, oh, I'm in Florida, I see a tiger. But like a giant or even like a lion. Like you're just like walking wherever their habitat is in South America or whatever, and you're just walking, there's like a tiger. Like that's insane.
I think that would freak
that's
me
crazy.
out probably more than anything, because I'm used to seeing crazy Florida stuff, like just wildlife here. Yeah. And that's what I'm used to. Like an alligator, I wouldn't blink twice at. But like if I was walking around and a tiger showed up,
I know. Cat.
Totally. Random fact also, speaking of random facts.
Yeah.
There's actually, this isn't Florida related, this is Texas, but did you know there's actually more tigers in captivity in Texas than there are in the wild in the world?
There's more in captivity in Texas than there are in the wild.
I mean, I didn't fact check this. I saw it in another social media video, so that could be total crap.
That's true.
But I did learn that, and somebody was talking about it in like some big cat documentary I was watching, how there's more tigers in Texas than there is in the wild. That's because of people's private collections and all that and things like that. So I was like, there's random facts like that I don't think about, you know, because it's like only once in my whole life did I ever see even a Florida panther.
Yeah.
You know, I see bobcats and coyotes and things like that all the time, but I've never, other than that one time, you know, I was riding in the woods in my 4-wheeler and my headlights caught it, and I kind of like freaked out because I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I come around this corner, my buddy and I were riding through the woods, and like we're kind of just playing around, like he's chasing me, I'm chasing him. We're kind of like almost like playing like 4-wheeler tag or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I found this trail and I swerved off, and I could hear him riding around somewhere else in the woods, and you know, then I come around this corner and my headlight spots it. And like, you know how cats do that like kind of crouch down thing where they don't know what to do or whatever. So like it's looking at me, I'm looking at him, like kind of like, all right, well, who's gonna make the first move? And I didn't know what to do, so it was a Yamaha Blaster, it was a 2-stroke, didn't have reverse, so I'm like, I hold the clutch in that's just idling, and I just put my feet down and start pushing myself backwards. And luckily the cat decided just to kind of go off in the palmetto bushes, and I didn't know what to do, so I just took off and I just went through the gears and I got the heck out of there. And I think that was probably the last time I really rode my 4-wheeler in the woods at night. But that was the only time I've ever seen a Florida panther. I've seen people's like Ring doorbell videos and things like that, but but I've never actually.
I haven't seen one since I was a kid. We talked about this last time about them bringing the panthers on bring them to your elementary school back in the 80s.
Yeah,
but you didn't see one in the wild. You haven't seen.
I haven't seen one in the wild. No, I've seen them on people's trail cameras and stuff here and there on social media, but I've never really actually seen one in the wild. With as much as I've been out in the woods, I have not seen one in the wild.
You're talking about the one the sheriff department, Manatee County, used to bring around, right?
Yes.
So funny story about that. I actually grew up like I would say 15 houses down from where the guy lived that had that Florida panther.
Yeah.
He kept it in his backyard like in a cage, and he had the trailer out front that they would trailer it around in. So like my buddy and I, we'd like ride our bikes down there to try to see if we can like see this panther just hanging out in this guy's backyard. And every once in a while you'd hear it at night and, you know, out there and whatever and things like that. But by the way, for anybody that's listening to the audio of this, we do have a live bird in here right now, and it's
Jay Money.
Jay Money in the house.
And Blake's over here getting a little extra friendly with it.
You're looking at the bird's skirt.
You hear the wings?
Yeah, that's really cool. It's yellow.
What kind of bird is that specifically?
She's an umbrella cockatoo.
Yeah.
And she is 25 years old.
Wow.
She's
really?
the oldest animal on the farm.
Wow.
That we have.
Have you guys had her that long?
No. No, I think we've only had her, if it's not 10 years, it's around 10 years. I think we've had her. I've had her for a while.
How many different kind of parakeets and parrots and birds and stuff do you have out there on the farm? Do you have any idea?
Throw a number out there.
Really?
So actual birds, different types of birds. How many kinds you'd have? So birds, we really have like 5 different types.
Yeah.
Like we have the macaws. So we have different versions of the macaws, like a military macaw, which they're green. Those are really cool. Hello. JJ is straight up looking at me. Am I talking about? Holy crap! That scared. She's excited, but that scared the crap out of me.
You're talking about her friends. Of course she's getting excited.
If you saw that on the video, that's why they're called an umbrella cockatoos, because when they get excited, they flap their head up or whatever, their feathers on their head, and it looks like an umbrella.
Bone up.
Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of animals out there because there's a petting zoo. So, you know, there's the classic farm animals, but then we also have like exotic animals like like lemurs. We have ringtail lemurs, so like King Julian.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have King Julian, but it's like that
Yeah.
type of lemur.
Yeah.
Those are really cool.
You also got a little jail and a mini railroad track out there too.
Yeah, we got
that's pretty unique.
Like an old Western.
It is.
Like an old Western
I've
town.
always, since I'm in video, I've always dreamed of doing some type of like short film or some type of like reenactment or something, because it's like there's like a storefront and a jail and a train.
Well, you know,
a saloon.
I do plenty of acting in my videos.
Oh, okay.
I could play an old cowboy or something like that.
Go.
Yeah. We can have him be the bandit.
We could do like some old timey
We'll
photos.
get you a little jail suit and a little mask.
You get like
to
a
wear.
FloBro Show old timey photo done.
Yeah.
It's not even black and white. They're like brown. They're like in yellow. Like,
Yeah.
They're so weird looking. I don't even know how they do that.
We'll dress him up in the classic white and black striped suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be the jailbird.
Yeah. I think Blake's got to be the sheriff.
Sure.
I'll be the train conductor.
All right.
I'll get one of them
I love
like
it.
denim overalls with the hat that they wore, and I'll be the train conductor. And
Let's do it.
then you could tie somebody up on the train tracks, and
Yeah.
we can reenact that whole thing.
So those bison that you have out there,
Yeah.
those bison you have,
Uh-huh.
Tell us about those. Those are cool.
They're big.
Yeah, they are big.
I noticed that.
brown.
I did notice that
Big
about
and
them.
brown.
I don't have any. I don't know a lot of facts about
Okay.
bison. But the cool fact though is when people see them like on the farm, they go, they think it's so weird. They go, they're not supposed to be here, right? Because you think of them out west,
Yeah.
or up like north, like Montana and stuff. But the fact is, it's like I don't know if it's a law or whatever it is, but because the bison, got weeded out, they went almost like extinct.
Yeah.
And they were like the native animal of our country. Like they were the most versatile animal that the Native Americans used. So I think they put it into law that every state is going to have conservation area where they have bison, like roaming.
Mm-hmm.
The most famous one is Yellowstone. They're everywhere in Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like every state has that. Every state has a national park or a preservation area that has American bison.
I didn't know
Which
that.
is pretty cool. So
You know
Florida
what?
has
You know what's kind of funny too. Back to the bear thing. Like that's what a lot of the comments I got with that bear video were people commenting like, "Oh, poor thing. It should be in the mountains and all this kind of stuff like that." And I'm like, it is a native species to Florida. Like, so it's kind of funny that they're obviously adapted and they know how to live here.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of funny. Like when you see something that like when everybody thinks of Florida, they think of like alligators and bobcats and crazy stuff like that and iguanas and all that. But you don't think about bison and bears and things like that. So it kind of like I guess freaks a lot of people out that especially from outside of Florida. When you think of Florida, you think of all the crazy stuff. You don't think about like, oh, they got bears there too and things like that. So I noticed that come through, and the comments are just funny in general. A lot of the amount of people that like think that I walk out the front door and just see this stuff every day. Like I get some people that in the comments are like, "Man, you have such a crazy life. If I were you, I'd move away." If all that like they think like I'm just outside with my phone recording and just like all this crazy stuff's happening.
Well, you do such a good job at background placements, so that's kind of a compliment that you've done such a good job at kind of inserting yourself into the reaction of the video in the background. To where,
well, that's kind of what I noticed with a lot of reaction videos in general or whatever. It's kind of like I noticed that people will do like these reaction videos, and there's a guy that does construction ones where he's dressed up in a construction suit, and he cuts to people doing weird stuff on job sites, and that it matched it and things like that. But I've seen some of the other ones that it's just the same background every time, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really look believable because you're like standing by your front door or in your backyard or something, and then there's a beach in the video. So like the idea I got early on was like, well, I'm gonna make sure that whatever video people send me, even if I gotta wait a week or two to film it, I'm gonna make sure that if I'm filming a beach video, I want to be at the beach or the one with those Corvette boats we filmed last weekend out on the water. I made sure we were out on a boat in the water, and we got passed by these Corvette boats. And so
that takes patience because you have all of these ideas, you have all these videos you can make reaction videos to, but you want to make it believable and you want to make sure you're in the right setting to match the video. So you're sitting on so much content. You're like, but I want it to be good.
I got probably 15 hurricane ones that I just have saved in a folder because I have these I keep these private saved video folders on my Instagram or TikTok or whatever app that people send them to me on, and I save them. Like I keep them stockpiled or whatever. And, I've had those Corvette boat videos sitting around for a while, and I'm like, well, I don't know when I'm going to be going out on a boat.
Right.
But I'm by no means known for patience. Like, I get an idea, I want to, like, call everybody around and, like, find out what can I do to make this happen. So
But you make it happen.
I do eventually make it happen. And, kind of like that one idea I had about the cop car. Like, I texted you guys at like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do any of you guys know a cop that could pretend to arrest me or whatever? And so it's an idea I have that now I'm just like, all right, well, that's just going back in the reserves for later and things like that. But it's just funny that there's just so much Florida stuff going on all the time. Like there's like a never-ending supply of just crazy Florida videos that you can post. Florida man this, animals, and things like that. And it's just crazy how much there is, and there's just so much Florida for everybody.
Yeah, there's plenty to go around, but I do like that you do take the time. I know it is hard to have patience, and I think it sets you above the other people out there doing it who are kind of using the same background or the same unpainted house and the same props and reacting to a video that's kind of Florida, could it not be, but it's just a gimmick, and I feel like it's just kind of redundant, and there's not much thought put into it. So I appreciate that you actually take that extra step, which means you're always in creative mode.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I got these ideas. How can I get myself in this environment to recreate this reaction video instead of, I got this idea. Let's go stand out back in my half-ass unpainted stucco house in front of some Brazilian pepper trees with a prop and knock it out real quick so I can get it up there and be relevant. I like that you don't do that.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, the funniest thing about it is doing this a while. Like now I find everywhere I am, I like see everything through like the lens, and I'm sure you can relate. You see life through like the lens of a camera. Like there'll be something weird going on over here, and instead of like my eyes actually seeing it, I'm like, what would this look like in a video? What can I use with this? Yeah. And it's funny because like the whole idea started with the guy. I think his name's Lamont Holt. He's on TikTok, and he's the guy that walks out his front door and is like, well, what a beautiful day to be outside or whatever. And so he does reactions to like anywhere. Like he'll just show whatever videos or whatever. So I was watching him and I'm like, I could do that with Florida stuff because, it's like I live here. I was born and raised here. Mm-hmm. So, I started out doing reaction videos to Florida stuff, and I started out like I'd walk out the front door and there'd be an alligator and I'd be like, nope, I'm not going outside today. Mm-hmm. But then people in the comments were like, that's not how a real Floridian would act. You'd walk outside and it'd just be like nothing. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I took into consideration the comments. So that's where I kind of got that dry approach to the videos. Now, every time I see something weird, I'm just like, yeah, that seems about right. Mm-hmm. It looks like Florida,
it's
whatever.
Par for the course.
Yeah. So I kind of adapted as the comments came in and different things like that. And, so it's just kind of been fun.
Well, you're evolving with the comments. So you're kind of getting feedback. Plus, you collaborate and you ask for, hey, have you guys got any good ideas? Send me some videos. And I really like that, too, because you're inviting other people to be a part of your experience and your creativity.
It's fun too because like there's a lot of people that get really cool videos, but they don't know the hashtags or they don't know
what to do with it.
Yeah, they don't know the exposure stuff and all that. So it's fun for somebody that might have like 100 followers who's really trying to grow as a creator or whatever. They'll send me a video and I'll post it and I'll tag them as a collaborator, and then they'll get like 500,000 views on a video that they might have gotten 500 views on or something like that. But then now their page is getting followers and exposure and things like that, which is oddly enough kind of how we met. Mm-hmm. I was doing the social media stuff, and JD does promotional kind of stuff, clothing brands, different stuff like that. So he reached out to me, just messaged me on Instagram, and it was like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about maybe promoting some products in your videos, this, that, and the other thing or whatever, and he's like, I'd like to set up a time to phone call this evening or whatever. And I'm like, absolutely. He's like, yeah, send me your number. I'll give you a call around 7 p.m., whatever. And then, so I give him my phone number, and it's the same area code as him. Mm-hmm. So he's like, my phone rings immediately, and I'm like, that's kind of weird, and it was the same area code. So I'm like, well, so I answered it. Yeah. He's like, dude, I know we said we were going to talk at 7 o'clock tonight. He's like, but, where are you at?
Same area code as me. What are the chances?
Yeah,
I'm meant to be.
I'm like one highway off ramp away.
Yeah,
and here he's reaching out, thinking like I could be anywhere in Florida, like Jacksonville, Miami, whatever. Yeah. And then I'm thinking this clothing company or whatever that he's promoting is like could be anywhere too. Like I think Orlando or like bigger city for clothing brands too. So like I'm thinking that I'm gonna meet this guy somewhere in Florida. He's gonna mail me some stuff. I'll make a video. different things like that. And then the phone rings immediately. And then at that point, it was like, instead of just being like, collaborating, working together, it's like, dude, just come on over. Like, let's meet, let's talk and hang out. And that, I think one of the first 2 times I was here is when your wife was like, you guys should start a podcast. Because we got talking, and we grew up in the same town, same county, and all that. So it's like, we got talking, and then it was like 3 hours later, and then she's like, I think you guys should.
Yeah, you should have recorded this.
Record this.
Yeah.
So, and like every conversation we've had after that, it's like, man, if we had that on camera, that might be entertaining. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe only we think it's funny.
And here we are.
Yeah.
And
then you come along,
and I'm just here.
He's kind of like the cherry on top.
And then just
I like it.
Blake shows up.
I'm just the cook in the corner, hitting record.
But you're a big contribution. I like your little pirate, your pirate theme. You got a black and white pirate Florida flag, and you got a bird on your shoulder. I mean, it's really fitting.
I know. Jay Money in the house. She's been really snuggly. She doesn't want to just sit on my shoulder. She wants me to like pet her. Oh, here we go. There we go. You gonna cooperate?
But yeah, so it's like, I feel like so that like we mentioned earlier, that's kind of where it all tied together. Was like, he had the clothing stuff he was trying to promote, and then I knew the guy that does the camera work, and then we ended up out in the woods, running around the wood, doing a mock turkey hunt thing and all that. And then we're out there with drones flying around, and he's like, and it was funny because we're all dressed up like big tough hunter, like macho men, like wearing our camo in the woods or whatever. But then he's like, got me sitting down in the bushes, and I got the turkey call. Oh yeah. And then we're like, how do you want me? Like, I'm trying to like act natural, like we're out there hunting, but then being positioned so it looks good on the camera. Yeah. And then we had to like turn the sleeve to make sure the logo showed. So it's like,
it's a lot of work.
Yeah. In the video, it looks like it's just like we're out there hunting, but it's like, you had your rifle on your shoulder, and we had to take the same shot like 3 different times, and then get like a drone flying over you doing the same walking path. And
well, Blake had the great ideas. He has the drone. He just got an eye for it. You got an eye for it that I can see it, but I don't know how to execute it. You can see it and execute it, and that's where the difference is.
Well, that's kind of like the boat last weekend. It's like we were out there doing another promotional shoot or whatever, and he landed a drone on a moving boat.
Oh snap! Yeah, that was wild.
I mean, we were all sweating. I mean, it was hot outside anyway, but like we're all watching this thing like come down towards the boat, and we're we're in a channel, so we're idling along, and there's a boat behind us, and we're trying to like
stop.
Yeah, we couldn't stop to like land or whatever. So it's coming down, and like at first, he was thinking like maybe we can try to grab it with our hand, and then we're like, no, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And then somehow you managed to pull off a landing. There's videos of it on my Instagram, but like. You managed to pull off a landing on a moving boat. Yeah. And the excitement in that video was actually like genuine because we're like, holy crap, this expensive drone.
Our adrenaline was like, it was up there. Man.
And I think you purposely used your least expensive drone just in case.
Yeah.
I did.
It fell up in the water.
And then that adrenaline carried on to the point where he's dancing around like Ric Flair with the Florida flag on. I'm on the front of the boat like Superman.
And the cool thing is there was no alcohol involved. This is just natural.
Yeah. That's the funniest part about it. A lot of people don't know. I'm sober, 9 months now, and drinking just about destroyed my life. And I got out of a rehab program, 3.5-month rehab program in January, and none of this was going on in my life, at the time. And like so I came out, no job, no nothing going on. Started getting back into doing my Instagram stuff that I kind of had already going, but like having that clear mind and like my creativity kind of started coming back, and that's where I was like, I kind of want to take this next level, and that's where I really started coming up with different ideas with different backgrounds and different angles, and then once I started posting stuff, it got the attention of JD, and then that's sort of where it all organically played out, and it's like it's just crazy because I've been out 6 months. July 5th was 6 months since I got out of rehab, and now we're sitting in this room on a podcast, and this is like just our, kind of an introductory get to know us episode or whatever, but like we already have a guest list of some pretty good guests lined up.
Do.
Yeah.
Florida people, got some social media stars, we got some different things like that. And it's just mind blowing to me, the opportunity that's come along in such a short time. And it's pretty exciting. Like it's really cool stuff.
It is.
Well, the fact that we have, I think, a pretty good arsenal of characters that are going to come on the podcast in the future, it just adds to the flavor of what we're trying to do as a Florida-based podcast. A majority of our guests are from Florida. They do stuff in Florida that is Florida-related already. So it's going to give the viewer a different look into, say, like an alligator trapper or
exactly.
a guy that's got like 4 million followers on TikTok, who does like prank videos.
The term that came to mind is well-rounded. Like I feel like our podcast is going to be a very well-rounded view of Florida.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're going to do everything from crazy Florida man to like conservation to just, different like alligator trap. Like we're all going to be going out on a trip to trap alligators with a licensed alligator trapper.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And one of the ideas that we're talking about too is in addition to doing just the podcast, we got the YouTube channel, we got all the different platforms set up. So we want to do like an actual like video blog style, like, vlog style video to put on like YouTube of like almost like a little mini reality show where we're going to be going out and trapping these gators, and we're going to film it, put together like an actual like short episode to put on, YouTube.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back to the studio and talk about it. And, so it's going to be a lot more interactive than just, it's just sitting around.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of bring an experience to the viewer that's not just us always in the studio. We're going to be out on the road with adventures, essentially. Yeah. We got a Native American style sweat lodge type thing set up, which I think is going to be really cool.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Sweat that out.
Yeah, and the alligator trapper. Like these aren't just pipe dreams. Like these are scheduled things. Like these are things we actually have already prepared to do, and and then so we're going to be.
We got
we're having some bird difficulties over here.
I'm struggling over here, guys. Keep going. Keep going.
That's one of the troubles with working with live animals is they're unpredictable.
So I think next episode we'll have like one of your chickens in here. Maybe we can bring one of your little
or maybe a goat.
A goat. Yeah. We can go get one of those.
Or
goats.
A bison.
Yeah.
The thing with goats. The thing with goats is they make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
They'll be constantly like.
Yeah, you remember the goat that we tried filming? That was not easy.
Well, if you have a goat making noise in the background of the audio, I think it would make people want to go check out the video.
It's true. It's just like there's like a shot and it just jumps out of my hands and just knocks.
You look like Darth
over.
Maul right now with that orange lightsaber.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, JJ.
But it's just really cool to how this is all playing out, and just the social media connections, because like all the people that we're talking to that we're going to be doing this stuff with have all been connections from social media and different things like that. So we're living in such a different time where the world is so connected with social media and the different platforms and different videos that it's like you could just talk to somebody that does what you're interested in and get to know somebody, and next thing you know you're planning a gator trapping trip and stuff like that. So
another thing I want to bring up is Florida conservation and the overdevelopment. That is going to be probably a topic on most episodes at some point, because a lot of us native Floridians are kind of fed up with the overdevelopment and the habitat destruction and all the transplants and the traffic and everything that comes along with overgrowth and development.
Preach.
Because we've seen it back in the pre-2000, or I would say like 95, before 95. We've seen it back in its glorious days when you didn't have so much traffic and you could go run around and
like I grew up,
fishing regulations weren't crazy, red tide didn't break out as often. It was just such a simpler time back then.
Yeah, like I grew up more on the West Bradenton side, kind of by the airport. And, back then, East Bradenton was just East Bradenton. There was no Lakewood Ranch or anything like that yet. It was just farms. And I posted a video recently of the last 30 years on my Instagram page of a satellite time lapse of East Manatee County from I-75 east. And it's just mind-blowing the way it just spreads. Like, it looks like water spreading across the land and, like, the farms disappearing and all that. And like when I got my driver's license, there was like a section of Lakewood Ranch Boulevard that didn't even connect. It was like you'd hit a field, and then you'd go around to the other road, and it continues on or whatever. But it was like, it's just crazy to see what it's become. And now it's like Lakewood Ranch is like one of the most desirable areas in Florida. And it's like, but to me, it's like, it's bringing a lot of money in, and we got a lot of cool restaurants, cool stores. We got this mall and all this stuff now, but it's kind of like, it's not the town I grew up in. Like I wish I had like some kind of traffic pass where I could be like, I was born and raised here. This is my lane. Like, let me get to where I'm going. Cause like being here, like, I'm 39 years old. I've been here my whole life, and driving for 20 plus years. And it's like drives that I remember taking like 6 minutes are like 20-minute drives now, like just simple little stuff. And, remember how like you used to be able to just go to the beach.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't like a planned out thing. Like
that.
you just kept swim shorts and a towel in your car.
Oh yeah.
And it's like if you just happened to be on that side of town, you just parked your car and grab your board or whatever and change into your shorts, you just go to the beach. Now it's like if you're not there between a certain time window, you're not going to get a parking spot, and then try to get off any of the islands. It's just the changes that we've seen here, and it's like it's kind of like you just wish there was like a native Florida parking lot. Like you just show your
almost like a handicap.
Keep a copy
like
of
you
your
got
birth
special
certificate
privileges
with
because
you
you've been here. Yes. I remember when I was in high school and even out of high school, from where I was at in north of the river, you could get to the beach in about 30 minutes. And that was, and now that's a 50 to 60 minute drive.
On a good day.
On a good day.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you used to ditch high school and go out there and had a skimboard and go do that stuff, smoke pot on the beach or whatever the hell you used to do as a kid. Back then, it didn't take so long to get out there. But now, it doesn't seem like there's an off season anymore around here. It's on season all the time. And even the heat, the hurricanes, and all the bad stuff Florida could throw at a transplant isn't scaring them away.
I know it.
And now they don't, and they also look at it as well, it brings all these good things. Yes, but this is our hometown and this is our home state. If I went to your home state and did this, how would you feel? How would if I went to your hometown in rural Massachusetts or rural New York, if anything's rural in any of those areas anymore, say Pennsylvania, and we started overdevelopment, which I know is happening because it's happening up in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's just what's happened in the USA. If we had done this in your town, how would you feel? So people, it's hard for people to see it through the eyes like that.
I think for me, it's
ruining it for your hometown when you really didn't want that to happen to begin with.
It's not so much necessarily the people. It's like kind of the amount of people, and like they bring their driving styles and like the attitudes, and like my wife works in the restaurant industry and has seen like the shift in the attitudes, like just in the clientele that come in, and it's like it's just kind of like the entitlement. You get a lot of people that are like, I'm retired now, I want to be served, and you get a lot of that kind of stuff, and it's like that kind of that entitled mentality, and then you got a lot of like the, you know, no offense to anybody, but the Northeast driving style, you know, and we're like in Florida, we're either, you know, 10 over the speed limit or 10 below. Like there is no in between. Like there's different types of Florida driving, and it's like, well, you know, when I'm just, I got an old Cadillac, so I drive Cadillac speed most of the time, and you know, so normally I'm five over the speed limit most of the time anyway, you know, and it's like, and then you still got somebody on your tail. You're like, I'm already over the speed limit. You know, and then you got someone on your tail, and it's just, I don't know, you can't just chill and just cruise down the road like it used to be.
So Florida used to be, you know, the retirement state back even when we were children. But now people are moving down here who are trying to start a family in their 20s, and they're moving from Oregon, or they're moving from Colorado or California and Texas.
Yeah.
Which Texas is fine. I mean, you know, that's kind of like the second best to Florida, I guess.
Yeah.
But all the rest of them, they do bring this, you know, it's like a cornucopia.
Yeah.
Everybody's funneling down to this one area, all in like a mass exodus from all these other states, arriving to Florida with all these different personalities, driving styles, you know, just beliefs and political views, to where it's like a hodgepodge of, it's a cluster. Is the best word to put it.
Yeah,
it's the best word I could put it.
And you know, it's crazy too, because like, you know, during that global sickness event that happened, you know, like towards like 2020 and into 2021, the different places with the closures and all that, and you know, Florida was pretty wide open, which, take it or leave it, a lot of people weren't happy about that. A lot of people were,
right?
But the fact of the matter is, it caused people that were like in these hyper closed down areas to just want to flee, and Florida being so open brought so many people here that weren't even planning on coming here.
Right.
Like, you know, working in the construction industry, which is, you know, kind of part of the problem we're having here. But anyway, that was what I was doing for work. I met a lot of people that moved here, and, you know, I'd get people telling me like, you know, I wasn't going to retire for 5 more years, but, you know, I just couldn't handle the way of life anymore. So I just needed to get away. And Florida was where we wanted to retire, and it's open. So they came here early. So we had that just massive flood, like, you know, 2020 and into 2022.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And they built it and they came.
Yep. And it's just unbelievable to see the amount, and kind of like how the country's like open and everything again, and everybody's kind of living normal. But like, it's just crazy that flow, like once that flow started coming down here, it just continued. And like, you know, you're watching all this land, like, you know, I grew up around a lot of farms, and, you know, you watch these farms either get taxed out of their land, or somehow or another they get to the point where, you know, some of them even see just the dollar signs. You know, they get offered enough money, and at a certain point they just say, you know, I give up on the family farm world, and I'm just going to take my money and leave. Or, you know, I know some families that were actually taxed out of their property. It got to the point where the property taxes, and they couldn't keep enough animals on the property and different things like that, to where they just had to sell their land which is really sad. And just to see that going on, it's different if everybody just decided they wanted to sell their land and they became neighborhoods, but to personally know some of these families that have been almost forced off their land. And like the farm you're on, you had the issue where they're trying to put a road through, right?
Yeah.
No, that's kind of
options, and they're like, we're not going to do this option, and then all of a sudden it was like, that's the option. It's like, wait, what? You said it wasn't going to be this, and then it was.
Well,
whatever.
We lied. That's the only option is to build a road right through it.
Well, that's kind of like that Cortez Road extension they're doing all the way east now too. Like that, there's people that lived all the way along that whole road, 44th or whatever.
Yep.
That they didn't have a choice. They're just like, well, your property is where we're putting this road through. So what do they call that? The eminent domain or something like that? Is that what it is?
Called tough cookies.
Or the tough cookies law. You live where we want to put a road, so here's your tough cookies paper.
Yeah.
They basically lost their whole front yard.
Yeah.
Because they put the road plus the ditch plus the sidewalk plus an easement. So they lost literally like.
Yeah, it's not like they're just putting like a little path.
And then now with all that traffic going by there, it diminishes the property value because who wants to live next to a busy a loud road like that all the time,
I know it.
People that aren't from here.
Exactly.
That's who wants to live there.
Yeah. And then they bitch about it when they move here.
Well, the number one thing I hear that's the funniest to me is you get a lot of people from like New York and up that way, like the Italian type people, and they're like, how come nobody in Florida knows how to make good pizza or Italian food or whatever? And it's like, well, the funny thing is like, we're not the ones making the Italian food. It's like your cousin Vinny, moved to Florida first.
You're mad at your ancestors for not doing it right.
Yeah, and he opened one of the 50 Italian restaurants in a tan stucco building. And then so it's like they're the Floridians aren't like, what I want to do when I grow up in Florida, I'm going to open an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
So I hear that so often. They're like, no one knows here knows how to make it. I'm like, it's because we're not making it.
33. Well, I'm sure the number fluctuates around 30 to 33%, depending on. It's getting worse every year. But only a third of the population registered in Florida is actually from Florida. So 2/3 of the people in Florida are from somewhere else. And there's 3 of us right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are the odds of that?
Yeah, there's 3 of us right here from Florida. But, when you go into a Publix, if you're from Florida, look around because you're probably 1 out of 7 to 10 people within 20 feet of you that is actually still from Florida. If you're actually from here.
I've actually had this conversation with people too, where they're like, people don't know how to drive in Florida. And I'm like, well, there's probably maybe 10 on the road at any given time that are actually Floridians. It's everybody moves here and they buy cars and they disguise themselves as Floridians with these Florida plates and they drive around and
but then they're driving around
Ohio will crash into New Jersey, then they'll blame Florida for it.
Yeah, because they both got Florida plates, but then one of them has a Colorado Rockies sticker on the back, the other one's got a Boston Red Sox sticker on the back. Most people from Florida don't really support other sports teams outside of the state unless you went to college there.
Right.
But how many Floridians do you know that actually genuinely like the New York Yankees?
I mean,
usually like Tampa Bay Rays or the Marlins. So that's one way you can usually tell a car in disguise is by the stickers it's got on the back. And if it's got a sticker in the front window, because a lot of states require that sticker in the front window when to get inspected. They ain't from here. They just couldn't take it off with a razor blade correctly.
So speaking of out-of-state teams, do you remember back in the day? I don't know. You might be a little too young for this, but do you remember the Hornets? Everybody wore the teal and purple Hornets clothing.
It was the colors. It was that 90s colors.
It was like the
starter jacket.
Yeah, the Miami kind of colors. But it was like the starter jacket with the... So I guess
Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, I guess at one point I must have been a Charlotte Hornets fan because...
Well, as a kid, you're confused. You're just trying to fit in. You thought it was cool, but those jackets were the bomb. I know. The starter jackets. With
every time you watched it...
Yeah, it had like this texture to it. It had the pockets in the front, the little quarter zip, and the hood.
Yeah, I know it.
And I've seen movies with those in.
Yeah. Those old movies.
Those old movies. I've seen those old classics. Tapes.
Isn't it crazy now that the music we grew up listening to is classic music now? They play it as like
I was listening to, I think it was 102.5, the classic rock station.
Yeah.
And they played Linkin Park on there, and I was like devastated.
I was like 20 years ago.
Oh my God, you got to be kidding
25.
me. And they play old school hip hop on Wild, 94.1. I almost called it 98.7.
I remember that state. I remember when Wild 94.1 came out.
Wow.
It was Wild 98.7.
I know. And do you remember
it was in Holmes Beach?
Do you remember like they pranked? Do you remember they pranked the DJs?
Yes.
They like tricked them that they were going off the air, and they had them believing it for like weeks. And then so like the last day that they were on air, they were playing Tone Loc's Wild Thing for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then basically the producers or something like that, if I'm getting this right, said we're just moving to a new studio. And so they like tricked the people on the show thinking the show was going off the air. And they're like, just kidding, we're switching over to 94.1. We got this new studio and whatever. And like Orlando and the Freak Show and all these people are still around doing their show. Yeah. But that was like during the time they switched from 98.7 to 94.1.
I remember when that came out. That was like, I think it was like in 11th or 12th grade in high school. And it was like the cool station because it was kind of rebellious. And they played songs that 93.3 wouldn't play, that were a little bit more edgy. And, they would play the hip hop that some of the other stations wouldn't play. So everybody was really attracted to it because it's like, oh, we're in high school, so we get to kind of listen to this. I don't even remember the music, but I just know it was always something
like they played like Outkast, like Rosa Parks, and like
they would
DMX,
play stuff that you couldn't
Rough Riders
hear.
Anthem and stuff like that.
But then they also played occasionally they would play other types of music too. It wasn't just all like old school hip hop or rap. Yeah. They played like
it wasn't old school back then. It was brand new.
It was
now it's old school, but Rough Riders Anthem was a brand new song.
They played a lot of DMX and stuff like that. They played stuff that you had to. So because back then when you had a CD player in your car, that was the station to have. It was cool to have it around because they played a lot of songs that you actually had the CDs for, and it was like one cool artist after another. And it was just an awesome station to have around.
You know what's really funny? So I grew up very old school, kind of Christian, like listening to Christian music, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really know this kind of music existed. Like I would hear it in cars driving by or whatever. And for some reason, like hip hop was always like appealing to me, but I just thought like we weren't allowed to listen to it. And I remember my grandfather gave me one of them old stereo systems that had like the tower speakers with a record player on top. It had the cassette players on the front and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I believe it even had an 8-track player, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember he gave that to me, and I set it up in my bedroom, and it was way too big of a stereo for the room I was in. But like, I remember like I would start tuning through the dial like away from the Joy FM and like wondering like
what else
is on there. And I remember I dialed all the way up to 98.7 at the time, and the first hip hop song I remember hearing was the Rough Riders anthem, that ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? So I remember it's like midnight and I'm in my room, my parents are sleeping, and I'm like I'm turning it up as loud as I could to hear what this is, and I'm like, this is a whole new world that like I had never thought I would experience. And like then once I discovered like hip hop, I was like totally into that. And like to this day, like for some reason, I have like this wealth of knowledge of country music and old school hip hop, which are like the total opposites. I guess in Florida, they kind of go hand in hand if you're from South Florida. But.
Yeah, see the 90s hip hop and the 90s country music is, I feel like, the best. Well, I mean, it's debatable, obviously, but for our generation, 90s
they don't know how to
music,
make music anymore like they used to.
Yeah, of course, we
kids
sound
don't know
how to say that. But I mean,
our age.
But you still even have people in their 30s. You listen to old school country, right? For the most part,
I do because of my wife.
Because she likes it. But
she loves old.
But
school
she's
country.
young
Big
too.
Taylor Swift fan.
Yeah, we're the same age. So she loves old school country. My brother's your age, and he got into rap. And so growing up, he's 4 years older than me, but I started listening to rap. So it's like that's what I used to listen to all the time. But then I also grew up in the era where, like, right out of high school or during high school was when dubstep was introduced.
Oh, yeah.
And for whatever reason, I just loved that.
Like Skrillex and all that stuff.
So that was like, I loved that stuff. Yeah, JJ likes...
Yeah, JJ likes Skrillex too.
JJ likes Skrillex. Let's go. Yeah, she's like, I'm hearing the jams right now.
It is like an umbrella on her head.
It's funny, like I worked at Best Buy for a little bit in the warehouse, and in the warehouse we had like this Bose sound system that was like a floor model that they like retired. So we had this like killer sound system back in this warehouse, playing dubstep on a Bose stereo system in a warehouse with the echo. Every time you walk back in there, it was like you were like at a concert. It was pretty cool.
That's epic.
And it's funny, that's actually where I practice that stupid radio voice that I do. Like, thank you for listening to the FloBro Show. I would get on the walkie-talkies And I would talk like that over the walkie-talkies, like, "Excuse me, aisle 4, we need assistance," and like just stupid stuff like that. And it's
clean up on aisle 4.
I've done that stupid voice for so long, and I'll do it in voicemails and like leave people voicemails with that voice and things like that. And
so do you remember that Bose had those little boxes? It was like
a little cube thing.
Yeah, but they sounded so good.
Yeah.
And it's such a small. And this was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, they're like 2.5-inch speakers,
yeah.
and they put out so much bass.
And
those
it was
speakers.
such a good, clean, crisp sound for such a small unit. And I think I had a CD player on it or something. I remember they had a Bose store at one of the malls back in the day, and we'd go in there, and you could put the Bose headphones on, and they were just like. This is before Beats by Dre and stuff. This is like 25 years ago when Bose was still like relevant in the audio industry for home theater and stuff.
Remember they had that whole room set up in that mall?
Yeah.
That you could go sit in this living room that had those Bose Cube speakers, and they were so small, but they'd put you in this room with this home theater system going, and it'd just be jamming, and you're like, it was mind-blowing because back then you needed like a 12 to 15-inch subwoofer with the mid-drive, like the tower speakers like I was talking about. You needed that back in the day, and then Bose came out with these little things where you're just like, you're making all that noise with those little things, and freaking like you're saying though, freaking Skrillex on those little Bose speakers in the warehouse.
Oh yeah.
So you're mostly a dubstep guy, or you?
Yeah, and then it morphed into country. So it's like I've had the full spectrum. Yeah. And so now.
So you were surfer gone country, but then you had the dubstep thing in the middle.
Yep.
And I remember I knew your brother. I actually did a stereo in his truck. Like he had that Stormtrooper Ford truck.
He used to have a Malibu, a Chevy Malibu that he probably put a good amount of money in, custom speakers and subwoofers, whatever. Like he should have went to shows. Like he should have shown that stuff off.
You know what's funny? Awesome. That the same day I installed a stereo in his truck, because I used to work at Autotronics in Sarasota. They're not around anymore, but it was a big, kind of one of them dope boy stereo shops where we customize donks and all that kind of stuff, like those crazy cars or whatever. And he brought his truck in, but the same day that he brought his truck in, we had an actual Model T pickup truck in the shop at the same time. So I think I still have a picture of his Stormtrooper-looking Ford truck parked right next to a Model T Ford truck. Like in the shop that same day.
That's
cool.
Yeah.
And like an OG, like an original Model T?
It was a straight up Model T truck.
What were they doing to it?
It was like a 1920 something. It had a like the old shaft radios where it's got like the little radio in the middle with the knobs that are separate, but it had the steel dashboard. He bought a newer version of a shaft radio that had the Bluetooth and stuff on it. So he just wanted that wired in there. And it was like 3 wires. Like it was a ground, a switched wire, and a hot wire. That was it.
Wow.
Like it's not like the new ones where you got like 50 wires with steering wheel controls. It was the easiest stereo I've ever done because there's no kick panels or anything underneath. It's just the radio and a steel plate, and everything underneath. You just reach there and you're just like, all right. The radio's done.
Speaking of music and stuff we used to listen to when we were growing up, I obviously listened to a lot of radio because back then you could record with a cassette on a radio by pushing
with a tape.
You need
a Scotch tape on there.
Yeah, you could record music, so you had to be on the fly with your boombox ready with the tape in there, pushing play and record at the same time or something.
Yeah.
And so
I remember the DJ would always talk in the middle of the song.
Yeah, and I remember
trying to make mixtapes.
Bubba the Love Sponge, the BTLS. He was on 93.3 back when I was like in middle school, but he always had like music that you would always want to try to record on tapes. And
yeah.
I remember him playing stuff on. I don't know, Bubba Love Sponge has been around for a long time. Actually, he still has. I think it's a podcast, YouTube type thing. I think he's still around
who
here.
Who does podcasts?
Apparently 5 million people do podcasts now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Joe Rogan did mention that.
So everybody has a podcast, and I guess
5,000,001 now.
5,000,003. No, actually 5,000,001. I don't know if they count an actual podcast or people doing the podcast. I don't know how they got their stats, but
you know what's funny about the cassette tape thing is my parents had this cassette tape collection, and we didn't get a CD player till I was like 15. So once we got the CD player, they started buying CDs. They had all these worship tapes, like church music tapes. Yeah. The amount of worship tapes that had like DMX and stuff recorded on these worship tapes.
You just record
I
over
would
them.
just put the piece of Scotch tape over that little notch so you can record on them. And I would make these mixtapes where you'd wait for the DJ to be like, up next we got Nelly's Country Grammar or whatever, and you're sitting there waiting. And then they play commercials, and then you're sitting there like, and you're waiting to record the whole time the commercials are playing, and then it cuts right into the beat, and you start recording. And then he'll start talking in the middle of it, and you're like, man, now I got to wait 2 hours until the song comes back on again. And
I love Nelly.
But yeah, sorry, Mom and Dad. There's a lot of worship tapes that you probably shouldn't listen to if you still have them.
Did you guys ever like, if your parents had like a bottle of vodka, you would drink it and then just replace it with water?
Oh, we did not have alcohol in my house. We did not have alcohol in my house.
I did that a few times. I remember. But my parents really didn't drink either. But still, sorry, Mom and Dad, you probably have a few bottles of alcohol that just have. It's a brown bottle that had brown liquor in it, but it's got water in it because I knew you weren't going to drink it anyways.
They want to listen to their worship and have a little vodka mixed drink. And next thing you know, they're drinking water, listening to DMX.
That's funny.
The stuff we did when we were kids.
That's great.
All the stuff we thought we got away with too that our parents probably just didn't bring up. And
well, see, back then you used to be able to ride your bikes around. You would go find where your friends were at based off of where all the pile of bikes were at in the driveway or in the yard. People were, kids were outside a lot more often back when we were young.
And what time did you have to be home?
When it was dark.
Yeah, when the streetlights came on.
Yeah, we didn't have streetlights, but when it was dark.
We had one on our road. It was one of those metal halide lights that they turn blue when they first come on and they eventually warm up. Oh, wow. So I found this gray area when I got a little bit older. I mean like 10 or 12. Yeah. But like we found this gray area when they said you got to be home when the lights come on. And I would kind of like test my limits. Like, well, it just turned on blue. It's not warmed up yet. So I knew it would take about 10 more minutes. So we'd try to hang out and milk that to the max. And oh, man.
Did you guys ever have any like forts or anything like that? You build any forts in the woods by your house with a group of kids and stuff? That was fun.
We had what we called a creek back then that went behind the house. It turns out it was just one of those retention things that goes like for miles. It's just like one of the really steep sides with 4 inches of water in the bottom.
Yeah.
And it went behind the whole neighborhood, the whole street that I lived on. And it had like a bunch of those like potato vines and pine trees and all that growing behind there. And right on the corner, there was this little bridge that kind of came around the corner. And you take a left to go down towards the country club that was there, or you take a right and you end up in my neighborhood, which was not a country club, which that's kind of how Florida is. Like this side of the street's like $1 million homes and over here is not at all. Yep. But my buddy Nick and he grew up right down the road from me. And I've been best friends with him for like 30-something years, over 30 years now, and we still talk. But we had this fort right on this corner where it was like a circle of pine trees that were completely grown in with vine potatoes. And we would find like random furniture and different things people were throwing out, and we kind of built this little fort. And we would hide in there, and we would pick the vine potatoes, and you could hear the car tires going thump, 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 thump over the bridge. And then we would all at the same time just hurl these vine potatoes at the cars driving by, and you'd hear boom, 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 boom on the car doors or whatever. I remember this one guy one time in this old truck, we heard boom, 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 then and then all of a sudden you hear footsteps coming into the woods. This guy, I mean, we were probably like 11, 12 years old, and there's like this, probably 45-year-old man, which at the time was this old guy. He starts chasing us through to the trail that went, because I lived on the same street as Nick, like our backyard's connected through this trail. So we took off running, and I don't remember if he ever caught us or what happened with that, but I just remember like, this guy's actually chasing us. This grown man is chasing children through the woods, and we had forts for sure.
So from like 83, I was born in 82, so 83 all the way to 96. No, 94. I grew up down Piney Point Road in Manatee County. If you ever been arrested in Manatee County and they put you at the jail, then you know where Piney Point Road is at. If you know where Port Manatee is at,
I'm familiar with Port Manatee.
If you know where Port Manatee is at, down at the end of that road is Piney Point. It dead ends into Tampa Bay. It used to be the ferry that would take you across Tampa Bay before they built the Skyway. And then they kind of decommissioned the ferry. And then it was like the end of a road where it turned into a boat ramp. A lot of people would go down there and party and stuff. I lived down that road, and me and my brother, and then there was another house. There was only 9 houses down that road. And me and my brother, and there was another couple that had 2 daughters. So there's only 4 kids that lived down this road. And it's very wild, very extreme back in the day. Rattlesnakes crossing the road, water moccasins all the time, alligators like crazy. Like there was a lot of gators behind our house, because behind our house there was no woods until you got all the way up to Cockroach Bay. I think Swift Mud owns it all now, but it's nothing but swamps. So it was a very wild place, running around with no shoes on, fishing in Tampa Bay. I think there was a drug dealer that lived next to us. I think he was getting pot from somebody was smuggling in from the end of the bay. This was back in the 80s. I'm way off. I was a kid. I don't remember, so don't hold me to that. But I do remember some nefarious activities going on down at the end of that road.
Sounds about
It was
right.
a dead-end road in the middle of Manatee, or the north part of Manatee County, that cops normally didn't go down. But I do remember a handful of times.
They went right into Tampa Bay.
Yes, I do remember a handful of times when somebody would break out of the jail. Somebody would try to break out of the jail and they would escape. So we would have the cops, there'd be helicopters flying around. The cops would come and say, hey, this is what's going on. We're looking for this person. Are they in your house? They come in your house and dogs running around. Granted, this is in the 80s and in the 90s too. And then I remember the Mosaic phosphate plant almost had a meltdown problem that we got evacuated a few times. But growing up down Piney Point Road was a blessing, but it was also a curse, because we lived so close to Tampa Bay that when there was a storm surge, we would have a foot of water in our house when mullet jumping in the front yard.
This is back in the day when you had no internet and all that, so all these fly-by-night companies were just doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
And everything was shady, and now everything's getting exposed, and it's like, this has been going on here our whole life. Like, all this stuff happened.
Yeah,
and it's all coming to light now with the internet. Nothing gets hidden anymore, and public records and all that. You just go on Google now and you can find out what really happened, and it's like, holy cow! Like,
for the people out there who know about the Piney Point phosphate, over there by the port, when they were accidentally dumped. They've been accidentally dumping stuff into Bishop's Harbor or Tampa Bay since I was a kid in the 80s. There was just no one there to expose it, and all you had back then was the news, which that was BFE of Manatee County, so news reporters wouldn't come out there, and it was rarely ever written about in the newspaper, and it was usually tucked under the rug. But now with social media, and I think Matt the Welder spoke on this not too long ago, a couple weeks ago,
he did,
about the phosphate plant. I even talked to him. I was like, dude, they've been doing that since the 80s, and probably even before, just accidentally releasing that water. Well, who's going to find out, right? Like, no big deal.
Well, it's kind of like how the Bradenton Herald and the DeSoto Mall had that deal where they wouldn't report any of the crimes that would happen at that crime-ridden mall.
Wow.
They had this deal where they're just like, we're just not going to publish that. Like, we're not going to write about the mall. Like, because they wanted people to shop at the mall, so they would just like not report on what was going on at the mall.
That's crazy.
Because there was always so much activity going on in that mall parking lot.
If only that worked in the state of Florida. All the crazy stuff that happens is not pushing anyone away.
like the rest of the states just don't need to hear about what really happens here.
Yeah.
Although half of my internet success, I think, was because of the Florida man.
Right.
The Florida man making the news all over the country, is kind of the reason that I think Florida is what it is. And I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
The Wild West of the South.
I think we've been circling this runway long enough. I think it's about time we come in for landing. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great idea. I think we got a lot. We have a lot to discuss on future episodes, but we did do a very good job at our introductory episode.
Yeah, we'll have guests. We're gonna have some real guests. But
next
anyway,
one.
guys. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the FloBro Show,
and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to the FloBro Show, brought to you by Florigins.
Say bye, JJ.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
This episode of the FloBro Show is brought to you by Florigins, Florida's most authentic lifestyle brand. Celebrate the rich culture and vibrant spirit of Florida with Florigins' high-quality apparel, handcrafted art, and unique accessories. Visit Florigins.com and use code FLOBRO, FLOBRO, for an exclusive discount. You can find the links to the Florigins gear we are wearing and the art on the studio wall in the description box below.